thank you for doing this. Wow. Welcome, everyone. My name is Ted Janulis. I'm a past president of the Explorers Club, and I'm thrilled to announce that we are going to kick off with an original composition from the Explorers Club poet laureate and trustee, Leonard Levy.
Thank you, Ted. The poem is actually a lyric, and it should be sung properly, not by me, to Ode to Joy from Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Hear the cries of doubters weeping, tears like falling rain they shed, grieving all their dreams retreating, sensing only storms ahead. Danger lurks in all directions, so they say in silent plea. We must seek and find protection. What will be our destiny? Lift your eyes up from the sorrows to the future drawing near. See the hope of bright tomorrows all around us, strong and clear. Science brings us fruits of wonder, cures once hidden, now in sight. Great pandemics cast asunder, guiding us with wisdom's might. Solar power drives our nations. Windmills turn on verdant hills. Geothermal generation, clean air flows as nature wills. Harvests rise, our hopes affirming. Crops withstand what drought once brought. Children fill the schoolrooms learning, knowledge widely shared and sought. Rise up now, the future's calling. Bright horizons stretch ahead. Hands united, darkness falling. Hope will guide the path we tread. From the caves to planets distant, witness our ascent so high. With love, courage, faith persistent, hope shall light our endless sky. Thank you.
Gets me every time. Unbelievable. That was beautiful, Leonard. Thank you so much. So welcome on behalf of all of us at the Explorers Club. By way of custom, just quickly, how many people are here for the first time? Wow, that's a lot. And that's actually a credit to Osvald and also Lyndsay Howard, who has done an amazing job putting this all together. So we're so grateful to be hosting this in our venue. So since a couple of you are new, I'm going to give you what I call the Flight of the Bumblebee introduction to the Explorers Club, very fast. When you came in our Harry Potter-ish building, you would have seen in front of you the famous first plaque. And our members, beginning in 1904, were the first to the North Pole, South Pole, top of the world, Everest, bottom of the ocean, the Trieste, and all the lunar landings carried Explorers Club flags. In fact, in the curio cabinet right next to where you came in, you can see the Apollo 11 flag that was worn for the actual landing. Now, usually, the flags are bigger, like the ones you see here, and there's a whole tradition around them. My favorite thing in the whole club, which unfortunately is out for restoration, believe it or not, the one Apollo mission that decided to take a full flag was Apollo 13. And you may recall that, you may have seen the movie and saw that things didn't go exactly as planned. And so we have the Apollo 13 flag in its original baggie with a note from Commander Lovell saying, sorry I didn't get a chance to unpack the flag, we were busy. And one of my favorite quotations about exploration ever, his version of Apollo 13 was, quote, plans were disrupted. So you do see other flags around here, and we have 250 of them. If you check them out on expedition, you go around the world, you come back, and it's important to share when you come back. And that's Senator John Glenn's famous description of exploration as curiosity in action. So it's not enough to be just curious, which all of us are and all of you are because you're here today, but it's all about taking that knowledge and doing something productive with it. And the surrounding flags here are special ones because they each develop their own genealogy and history when they go around the world. And then when they do something really cool, we retire them so they don't get lost, stolen, or broken. This is the Kontiki flag right here. That's flag number 2 over there, belonged to a gentleman named Roy Chapman Andrews, who's one of the models for Indiana Jones. And when you come back for your tour of the Explorers Club, you can see his original whip up in our library. You don't have to go up to see one of Peary's original sledges. That's hanging above the door right there. But you do have to go to the library if you want to see President Roosevelt's application for membership, in which he lists being President of the United States 4th. Not sure why he felt that need. Yeah. So as much as we recognize and celebrate that history, we're really firmly grounded in the present and the future. So many of our programs that are generously supported by folks like Rolex, we send people out into the field, we give them mentoring. We have something called EC50, where those are 50 people that the world should know about, but maybe doesn't know enough about them yet. So we really try to guide things to a next generation and ensure a vital exploration that's fair and inclusive and gets everybody out there doing things. So we're very excited about playing that role. And it's one that leads us to a day like this, where we love hosting events, where coming together, like-minded people, celebrating incredible things. And I think we have an incredible session to celebrate today with Osvald, who's here. Who's here a minute ago? Where's he? Osvald Bjelland. Then to celebrate his book, and just an amazing group that's here to celebrate with him. So I am going to leave the microphone, and I thank you all. I know this is a very busy week. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks again to Lyndsay for making this all possible. Yeah. And we hope you'll come back to the Explorers Club again and have a wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Ted, for such a glorious introduction. It's a true joy. It's very special for me personally to be here at the Explorers Club and to be with all of you. And thank you, Leonard, for your poem. You know, writing like what you do, presenting like what you do, it gives us direction, gives us support, and it gives us hope. So it was wonderful to listen to you. In 1876, my great-grandfather, at the age of 15, decided with his 3 older brothers to pack their bag and cross the fjord, roam the mountains, and find a ship that took them to America. And so this is, for those of you quickly thinking through this is about 7 generations ago. So it took us 7 generations to get from Ellis Island to Upper East Side and the Metropolitan Club. So as some of my Swedish friends in the audience would say, well, the Norwegian, sometimes it takes some time for you guys to get it right. But here we are. I'm very, very happy to be here now. And to work on this book, you see, has been potentially a life-shifting experience, because I've had a joy to meet so many people, and to also, I had a period in my life when I had time to actually listen more and ask more questions. And what we learned from many of these essays is that hope drives survival, hope drives change and progress, hope is a multiplier, you will find in many of the essays. Hope brings promise for the global south. Hope means business. Hope unites and drives collaboration. And hope is an accelerator. You see, many of these essays, and I would argue that also, thanks to Laura Bloom, who is here, the deputy editor of the project, we have really tried hard to make sure that each essay brings a smaller or bigger contribution. But some experiences have been bigger than others for me. You see, in 2023, the Iranian woman, Nargis Mohammadi, won the Nobel Prize in Peace Prize. And so I drove down to the Nobel Peace Prize Center in Oslo, and I met with Berit Reiss-Andersen, the former chair of the Nobel Peace Prize committee, and I said, I really would like Nargis Mohammadi to write an essay in this book. And she said that, are you aware of this, that she has now came out of the second solitary confinement, and she is in prison. And of course, Berit is a lawyer, and she is very precise, and I thought I should, so I said, well, let me go home and write an invitation, and I will do the best I can, and then I come back with that invitation, and I ask you only to do one thing. Send that invitation into the universe somewhere, and we will see what happens. And she took the invitation, sent it to Mohammadi's children in Paris, and then the weeks went by, and I've forgotten about it a little bit also, but after 8 or 9 weeks, suddenly came this incredible essay back, which is now the leading essay in this book, the first essay in this book. So sometimes I don't know I don't know what happened, but we got the essay. And even more so, I have a surprise, and God willing, the technology will work during our session here now. We have been working on it quite hard. She is now out of jail, and she will be with us live from Tehran on video during this session. And when I look at the technicians, is this thumb up or down now, guys? Is up? It's incredible. So this is Nargis Mohammadi from Iran coming to say hello to us right here and now. Yes. Hi, can you hear us now from Upper East Side? If you can hear us, and please share your story. She will have a translation. She will speak Persian. And I'm not sure that she's hearing me. We can see you.
Yes, I hear you. Yes.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
It's wonderful to see you,
Can
and
I speak?
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an honor to meet you, even if through this video call.
You can just share your remarks. We hear you now. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Dear friends, writers, intellectuals, and guardians of hope. Can I? Dear friends, writers, intellectuals, and guardians of hope, I am a woman who spent years in prison, 10 years behind walls, beat to silence voices, crush dreams, and erase hope. But let me start with these truths. No one can imprison hope, and no power can destroy our belief in freedom and justice. In prison, I saw light in the eyes of my fellow inmates. In our hardest moments, a glance, a word, a smile, or a memory reminded us that humanity was still alive. I learned that hope is not only a feeling, it is a force that drives us to resist. Today, as I stand before you, my message is simple, a simple message, but urgent. The world is still worth believing in. Humanity still deserves hope, but hope survives only when we act. Hope without action is an illusion. Hope without a voice becomes dangerous silence. We are responsible writers who shape history with words, activists who change it with deeds, and all of us who dream of a better future. We owe it to the victims who can no longer speak. We owe it to the children who look to us for a more human world. For me, after 10 years in prison, hope became more than a personal choice. It became a commitment to humanity, to freedom, to peace, to dignity for every human being. So let us turn hope into a weapon of resistance. With our words, our pens, our presence in the streets, and our voices everywhere, let us show that no power can erase human dignity. I stand here as proof. Even when everything is taken away, one thing remains: our belief that humanity will prevail. We cannot surrender. We cannot surrender. We cannot stay silent. We cannot give up hope, because hope for all of us and for the whole world is the strongest weapon we have. Let us rise together, hand in hand, with words, with actions, with courage. Let us build a world worthy of our children, where freedom, justice, and peace are not dreams, but daily reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. And one day we hope to meet somewhere in person. I'm sure that is a big next year. Thank you very much.
Hello, this is Jane Goodall. And first of all, I want to say how very sad I am that I'm unable to be with you in person for the launch of this really important book, because we're going through very, very dark times, and it's more important than ever that we should have hope. So this book of Osvald Bjelland, which is Hope for Life on Our Planet, could not come at a more important time. It's very dark times we're going through, socially, politically, and of course, environmentally. And it's very easy to lose hope. And if we lose hope, we become apathetic and tend to do nothing, because what's the point? And all around the world, there are people falling into deep depression or becoming angry and violent. Mostly people seem to be just apathetic. I mean, what's the good? So they don't care. I see our species right now as at the mouth of a very, very long and very dark tunnel. And right at the end of that tunnel is a little star. That's hope. But it's no good sitting at the mouth of the tunnel with our arms folded and hoping that the star will come to us. No, no. We must roll up our sleeves and we must climb over, crawl under, work our way around all the obstacles that lie between us and the star. Obstacles that you all know: the pollution of air, water, and land, the reckless burning of fossil fuel, resulting in the greenhouse gases that blanket the globe and trap the heat of the sun. And this warming planet means that we're getting these terrible changes in weather patterns, more frequent and worse hurricanes and typhoons and flooding and droughts and fires and heat waves. And in addition, there's the agricultural, the intensive agriculture, the industrial agriculture, I should say, which with its pesticides and herbicides is actually poisoning biodiversity. We're losing biodiversity. And these chemical poisons used in agriculture are actually killing the soil on which we all depend. The ice is melting and water levels are rising, and some islands are already disappearing underneath the ocean. It's not surprising we're losing biodiversity, and it's not surprising we're losing hope. I meet young people around the world, and they are depressed, angry, or just apathetic, and I ask them, what's the problem? And they say, well, you've been harming our future, and there's nothing we can do about it. One of my reasons for hope is the energy, enthusiasm, and dedication of young people once they know the problems and we empower them to act. It was 1991 when I started the Jane Goodall Institute's Roots and Shoots program. Now, having begun with 12 high school students in Tanzania, we have members from preschool through university, more adults joining, and it's in 76 countries and growing. And the main message is every single day we live, each one of us, all of you, we're making an impact on the planet, and we get a choice as to what kind of impact we make. And each group chooses 3 projects because everything is interrelated. They help people, they help animals, they help the environment. That's probably my main reason for hope. But then there's the amazing human intellect. I mean, just think, we've sent people to the moon. We've got cameras taking photographs of the surface of Mars, the red planet. We've designed the internet. There's AI. Our intellect is extraordinary, but I say intellectual, not intelligent, because intelligent species don't destroy their only home, and that's planet Earth. That's why the young people moving out there and making a difference every day is truly a reason for hope. But scientists are now beginning to come up with new technologies to enable us to live in greater harmony with the planet. Just for example, renewable energy and capturing CO2 before it gets up into the greenhouse gases, and many other technologies. But as important perhaps is the fact that we as individuals are thinking about our individual ecological footprints as we go through life every day. What do we buy? Ask questions. People are asking questions. How was it made? Did it harm the environment? Was it cruel to animals like the intensive factory farms? Is it cheap because of unfair wages in some parts of the world? Then let's look for an alternative made in a more ethical way. And if it costs a bit more, well, we'll value it more and we'll waste less. And the waste of food and materials is a huge problem today. So our intellect is another reason for hope when it's used wisely. And then there's the resilience of nature. I've seen places that were totally destroyed by our activities, like quarries after mining. But give nature time and perhaps some help, and nature will return. And once again, those bare and barren places can support life. I've seen examples. There are amazing examples, and animals on the brink of extinction have been given another chance. And then finally, there's the indomitable human spirit, the people who tackle what seems impossible and won't give up. And so often they're right. And those people are all around us. In fact, each single one of us has an indomitable spirit. So many people just let it lie fallow. They don't come out and use it. So that's why this book is so very important. And that's why I'm so thankful to you, Osvald, for bringing these people together with their reasons for hope at a time when that is needed more than ever before. So thank you, and I hope that everybody will read this book of hope for life on our planet. Again, I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I hope you'll all buy and read this book. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm so happy to help celebrate the global launch of Hope for Life on Our Planet. It's a remarkable book with great themes about life, work, and pushing society forward to make people's lives better. I wish I could be with you in person, but I'm glad we have the technology that allows us to share this moment. I have known and worked with Osvald for many, many years, and we have always shared the belief that hope can energize us to do difficult and valuable work. We also agree that the role of a leader is to be a hopeful person and empower others with the same feeling. I was raised in rural Sweden, in a small town many of you have never heard of. From a young age, I played team handball, which is really Sweden's national sport and is popular all around the world. I loved it. My father was my coach for many years, and I wanted to make a life out of it. I got all the way to semi-professional status as an athlete, but I wasn't good enough. I played in Europe, I played in Latin America, but you know, my career ended and I had to do something else. The sport and my father taught me to be resilient and to be flexible and to think beyond immediate needs and wants. I was able to shift to a career in technology and telecommunication, and I brought all the leadership lessons from my time in sports to the business world. This was a challenging transition for me, and I had to rethink how to do things and how to contribute in a different way. Of course, it wasn't a great start. I started checking travel expenses. I wasn't really good at it, and it was actually really boring. But I was curious about the people traveling and where they were going, and that of course helped me to understand what are the opportunities in telecommunication and technology for me around the world. So I focused on that. A big part of being hopeful is believing that things can change in our lives and in the world if we put the work in. This belief that we can make positive changes for ourselves and for others brought me where I am today. It is how we do business at Verizon. Our services power and empower people to connect with each other, to prosper, to have fun, and to take care of each other. I believe that everybody should have the same access to these technologies. These are the foundation for the 21st century's life and infrastructure, which is why we work so hard every day to reach as many people as we can. It's how we do business at Verizon. Our service power and empower people to connect with each other, to prosper, to have fun, and take care of each other. I believe that everybody should have the same access to these technologies. They are the foundation of 21st century's life, which is why we work so hard every day here at Verizon to reach as many people as we can. Osvald and I agree that hope is the belief that we can change the world through hard work and smart work. Today's problems do not have to be tomorrow's. The people in this room are doing that every day, inspiring others to contribute and make that change. I thank you all for that, and I wish you an excellent and extraordinary great launch of this book.
Well, thank you, friends, for being with us together today to celebrate this book and to celebrate three very distinguished co-authors who I have the great pleasure of speaking with today, and to moderate a panel where I'm going to ask them three hard but purposeful questions, if they'll agree. I'd like to also pull out this line that Hans Vestberg gave to us, that a leader is someone who brings hope with them, is a hopeful person. You've each contributed to this book and its mission. Thank you for being here. I'd like to ask three questions today, one about the core messages in each of your chapters, one about the current climate in the world and in this country as well, and one about prescriptions for hope. Professor Thurman, or Tenzin Bob, as some of us like to say, just to make some introductions, though I think we know who all these distinguished guests are. Professor Thurman is the Je Tsongkhapa Professor Emeritus of Indo-Tibetan Buddhist Studies at Columbia University and the founder of Tibet House. Jonathan Granoff is the UN representative for the Nobel Peace Laureates. He's the president for the Global Security Institute that works on arms control. And he is also an ambassador for many institutions, but also for the Parliament of the World's Religions, which is an important body doing important work. Vidar Helgesen is the former Minister of Environment of Norway, and he is now Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission for UNESCO. So when you swim or drink in clean water or drink clean water, he's one of the people you should be looking to thank. Professor Thurman, may I start with you? You wrote a chapter about the 17 points of hope for Tibet and our whole world. What are the core messages in your chapter, and why did you choose to write as you did?
Well, I was remembering, I was having a little bit difficulty remembering all 17.
Like the SDGs.
And in a way, when Osvald asked me to do, I thought about the lost cause, so-called quote-unquote lost cause that I have been struggling with for 62 years, which is the cause of Tibet and its freedom and its culture and its civilization and its knowledge that it inherited and refined from India. And I thought about that, and I'm sure that His Holiness the Dalai Lama will return there within this lifetime, and China will see the foolishness of trying to destroy the Tibetan culture, and they will enjoy it as a jewel which they will relate to and leaving it to develop on its own right. And so the larger vision of the planet, which is, as Jane said so well, this is a very dark time. And in the Indian astrology people, they say it's the time of Rahu, which is a kind of planet that causes eclipses. It eats the sun and moon periodically. And therefore, the deity Vishnu cut its head from its stomach, so it only has a mouth and a head. And it eats the planet, it eats the sun or the moon, but it can't digest it. So then the sun and moon come back out. So it's like a mythological thing about an eclipse that they have in India. So I think the people who are causing the darkness now, who are hell-bent, literally, on creating hell on earth, actually, they are massively doing it. And they have us trapped in the situation of feeling completely defeated and defeatist, feeling like there's nothing we can do about anything. We can't stop them. They are like all powerful or something like that. They have us gripped, the planet is gripped in a kind of defeatism. And so it's so moving to hear Nargis Mohammadi, having been in the deepest, deepest darkness you can even imagine. All the women of Iran, actually, under the insanity of that place. The leadership, rather. The place itself is a wonderful culture and a beautiful place, but the leadership, it's shameful to feel hopeless when a person like that can be hopeful. So anyway, I thought of that, and then I thought of a little YouTube piece where I saw His Holiness, and I put that in one of the points, where he was asked by English interviewer what was the meaning of life. Because he decided, you should really like a Dalai Lama. You have a Dalai Lama in your program. You better ask him what's the meaning of life. So the Dalai Lama said, well, happiness, of course. Happiness, meaning of life. And he looks like, what? That's not legal in most countries, happiness. barely legal. And then Dalai Lama elaborated, well, joy. He then thought that would be easier. It still wasn't. Then finally he said, well, hope. Then he came to hope. Happiness, joy, and hope. And then he looked a little more hopeful to the interviewer. And then the Dalai Lama said, hope is the meaning of life, and happiness, because it leads to happiness and joy. And so then he says, reason. He says, the future is a mystery. We don't know how it will turn out. So, but we hope it will be better. And there we imagine it being better. And that imagination in the present is what gives us joy and happiness, and which gives us the strength to try to make it better. He says like that. And it was like a Zen, what they call a pivotal speech, where a pivotal word, where the whole thought process turned of that particular. Piers Morgan, he was a British guy. He just turned like that. So that I thought was the main message, And my main message always is that thanks to the Buddha and the Dalai Lama and some karma or something, I changed my view of life over 84 years. And thanks to my wife, I think a lot, and my children and other people, I changed my view of life from feeling that reality is dangerous fundamentally. It's like something you have to have protection against. You know, nature is red in tooth and claw on the naturalist side, and on the sort of religious side, there's hell waiting for anybody who had a little bit too much fun. You know, something must have gone wrong. And so that's the culture I grew up in. And therefore you try to achieve and do stuff and you never take a moment to look at it, because if you look at what's natural, it will scare you. And so I managed to switch from that to realizing that we live in an ocean of life, an ocean of hope. And any one of us could die this minute. And we're persuaded that, even the materialists are happy because at least they're anesthetized for eternity. Therefore, no pain, which is maybe not realistic, unfortunately. And then the religious people are desperately hoping they'll be judged well, and they're making last amends and trying to make up for all whatever they did that was a mess. But actually, life does go on, and death is just a change of body. Another thing of Dalai Lama, last thing, I know I'm probably taking too long, I always do. When my wife is not there to go like this, I tend to talk too long. But there was another thing he did once. He was in Poland, at the VIP lounge, and some Polish kids had done with their teacher there one of those little dances. And then they were crowded around him afterwards, thanking him because he was praising. He said he enjoyed their performance. And then one of a brave young girl, she stood up and she said to him, "Oh, Your Holiness, thank you so much. We're so happy to perform for you. But there's one thing we worry about, and that is, isn't it terribly hard for you, all this reincarnating business?" She says, in English. It's good English. She says, and he goes, "Oh, no problem, no problem." And then he looks at her and he says, "Well, for example, you're wearing that beautiful blouse, with a white blouse, with the red flowers on it, the way they have in Eastern Europe, that kind of children thing." And he said, "It looks so beautiful, probably a new one your mom bought you. And before that, you had an old one that was sort of stringy and dirty, and the threads were coming loose, and you weren't enjoying it so much. And she took you, and you bought that new one, and then you put it on, and you felt so great." And she said, "That's true, that's true." He said, "Well, it's just like that. Reincarnating is just like putting on a new dress." So she then reported that in Polish to all these other kids, and they're all like thrilled. You're not supposed to talk about death. The children are so scary. They just were all really cheered up about it. And that's the key thing. So the point is hope. And then she said, hope without action is shameful. So hope then leads to positive action. And Dalai Lama also said this: if you lose hope, then despair, then violence, then everything is destroyed. So you have to take action, and you must. And actually, with the big action that we have to take, final thing, again, I'll repeat His Holiness, he said next Dalai Lama will be probably a woman. He said, "I think I'll reincarnate as a woman." And the male Tibetan people in his office, they didn't look happy with that. They looked nervous. But that's the fact. The 50% of humanity cannot afford to be despairing and tantrum and violent and give up and blah, blah, because they have to put the food on the table for the kids. They have to take care of what's practical and realistic. So women, we have to cede power to you, definitely. And you have to speak up and take it. And then we'll be all right.
Thank you,
and that's what I hope for.
Tenzin La. Jonathan Granoff, you wrote a chapter called A Golden Rule for the 21st Century. Can you speak about that?
Sure, but first, I represent the summit of the Nobel Peace Prize winners. So Mikhail Gorbachev started this, so each year the Nobel Peace Prize winners come together and address the how, that we can make the world better, and the why. And that's exactly what this book does. It has fantastic explanations of policies that will make the world better, but just as important is the why. I had a diplomatic posting in 2023, and I was part of the group that worked on the statement that was accepted and put forward by all the heads of state of the world. And in the debates, I heard a lot of technical language about the SDGs. Like, regular people are supposed to understand that. I don't think so. I don't think so. So it was a lot of discussion of how we can make things better, but I heard very little discussion about the why. Why do we have a responsibility to future generations? Is there an ethical basis to it? If you don't have both the good and the practical, you end up with improved means to unimproved ends, like nuclear weapons. The more you perfect them, the less security you get. If you don't have the why, you end up with financial systems disconnected from goods and services. You end up with religion without love and transcendence, rites, rituals, dogmas, and practices. You end up with art, not about beauty. You end up with philosophy, not about truth. You end up with medicine without healing. You end up with improved means to unimproved ends. So the why is, I thought to myself, this is really important. America is based on a why. It's based on an image of what we ought to be. How do we move from what we are to what we ought to be? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that we're all equal. That's the seed that starts our country. And we're fighting for that today. That's what democracy is about. It's about that principle of the equality of everybody. That's the ought. We move toward the ought. And what's the ought that we teach our children in every religion? In every single religion, in every wisdom tradition, it's an iteration of the golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated. Refrain from harming others in ways that you don't want to be harmed. You find this with Mahavir tens of thousands of years ago. You find it in Confucius. You find it in Socrates. You find it in Mohammed. You find it in Jesus. You find it universally because it doesn't come from religion. It comes from the architecture of the conscience, where the divine speaks to every human being if they can strip away their egocentricity, selfishness, fear, doubt, and come back to their humanity. That's why I have hope, because that humanity, and I've spoken all over the world, in Russia, in China, all over the world, and people have a conscience everywhere. It simply has to be awakened. That's why our championing hope as a cause, as a movement, is so important. So America was founded on a vision of hope, what ought to be, and the UN was also to stop the scourge of war. But we haven't been explaining to the world where we are at this moment in history, why there's something different. I thought to myself, when Jesus said the golden rule, we couldn't melt the polarized cap. We couldn't destroy the phytoplankton's health, which is 60% of our oxygen. We are being breathed by the health of the oceans. We couldn't destroy the rainforest, the other part of our lungs. We couldn't do that even if some idiot said, let's get together and melt the ice cap and destroy the Gulf Stream. We couldn't do it, but we're doing it. And we're building these weapons, and we're building other weapons that are sitting on the shelves. And I thought to myself, what is the universal why that we teach our children? The golden rule. But today we need something that is universal, not nested in a particular religion or a particular culture. We need something that will speak to everybody. And I meditated on it, and what came to me was, we need a golden rule for the 21st century. Treat the lives and well-being of future generations as we want to be treated. That, to me, is a principle that could help guide the way we treat the global commons, for example, the regenerative processes of nature that we all depend upon. That has to be outside of the expropriation of property, because property is, I have a house, you have a house, you can change it, you can rent it, you can paint it, you can borrow against it, and you can destroy it. We have a right to our property, personal property, but we don't have a right to destroy the future for lives yet born. We don't have the right to destroy the regenerative processes of nature. They need to be part of the heritage of humanity. So we need an ethical principle for today. So I wrote a golden rule for the 21st century. Treat the lives and well-being of future generations as we want to be treated. And as a footnote, I suggested nations might do well to treat other nations as they want to be treated. And then another footnote, religions might do well to treat other religions as they want to be treated. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Excellency, Vidar Helgesen, you wrote a chapter called Don't Have Hope, Do Hope. Can you speak to us about that in your work?
Yes, I can. Life on our planet. We all know the ocean. I'm heading the UN body for ocean science and ocean management. And we all know that the ocean is covering 70% of the planet. But it's more than that. It's 95% of the biosphere. It's 95% of the life support system of the planet. And when you're working with oceans, you're getting a steady stream of bad news. Because science is identifying that what we're doing to the Earth, we're also doing to the ocean. Jane Goodall talked about agriculture depleting soil. Well, because of agriculture, there are 500 dead zones around the global ocean as a result of nutrient pollution. Even the fundamentals of the ocean are changing. We have the global conveyor belt, the currents that carry across all continents and takes 1,000 years to complete one circulation. Even there, we're seeing currents starting to fray, starting to behave in unpredictable and strange ways. So we're really talking about fundamentals. And receiving these news will not leave you with much hope, and that's why we can't have hope. We need to do hope. Hope is a verb, it's not only a noun. And the knowledge we're producing about the ocean needs to spur action. And we're seeing some of that action. We're seeing at a time when multilateralism is really struggling, we've seen remarkable progress when it comes to the ocean in recent years. The day before yesterday, the new treaty, the new High Seas Treaty, entered into force. We've seen the ocean taking a strong place on the biodiversity. We've seen a new treaty on biodiversity protection. We see the ocean taking a bigger space on the climate agenda. And behind that lies a combination of knowledge and social mobilization. Change is only possible through real social mobilization. And it's hard to notice, but that has taken place. Now, all those frameworks, all those UN decisions need to be filled with action. Much is remaining. But just as we are able to learn about those still 80% of the ocean that is not explored, we're able to act on the basis of that knowledge. We're able to have social mobilization to create those decisions, those frameworks. I'm quite confident we'll be able to push for action, even if times are difficult.
Thank you. So our next round, a little shorter, is on the current climate, to just hear what each of you think. An American writer recently said, we must refuse to allow despair to colonize our imagination. We live in a time of increasing hopelessness and despair. What happened? Did we lose the plot or simply lose our way? Why and where did we lose hope? Can I ask each of you, starting with Professor Thurman?
I'm sorry, why would we lose hope?
Why and where? Why and where? What happened? Why are we here now?
I don't think we lost hope. Nobody lost hope. People are just, we are just conditioned to think that what we hope for is unrealistic, and so it's not possible. We have a defeatist thing plugged into us, that we don't have the ability to do anything. And we think that somehow someone else will do it. And I think everyone who is alive has a hope. And everyone who's alive knows that somewhere something is all right when they're alive, even if they have some pain. Because the whole point is that health and hope and joy and life are all the same thing. When when your cells in your own body like each other, they're happily working together. your microbiome is going literally berserk every time you eat a piece of celery or carrot. And it gives you, what they say, gives you endorphins and whatever, and you smile. And everybody is capable of smiling, actually, even in the worst period of time. So, and this, my wife, this is now I'm being obedient to my wife. She wants everyone who listens to anybody, but to me in particular, or herself, to feel and to feel the possibility, even if they are conditioned not to think so, that they are basically really good. Every human being is a miracle of sensitivity and intelligence and care, and they're just amazing. Guys are a little out of it always because they don't know what they're doing, but just kind of cheerful too sometimes. They can be cheerful. And women know everything what's going on, and they have 360-degree awareness. They know when the cat is hungry, when the baby needs to be birthed. They know everything. And they sort of tolerate the guys running around like, what shall I do? In fact, there's a joke. I just want to tell about the joke. Do you all know why it takes so many sperms to fertilize one egg? Does everybody know that? I won't say if everybody knows. No? So you didn't hear?
Yeah. Why?
Not one of them ever wants to stop to ask for directions. That's my answer. That's all. So cheer up, Cheer up. Cheer up. Those people in Serbia standing in the street, hundreds of thousands of people against one of the pathetic tin pot would-be dictators. Just standing in the street day in and day out, Georgia, Serbia, Berlin, whatever. They're having a nice time in the street, mostly. Occasionally people on the surface, they have some guy.
Clearly you're a proponent of, clearly a proponent of good science. Jonathan, hard act to follow. What are you going to say?
Thank you, Elizabeth.
We live in a society in which desire is amplified systematically. And it's going to be amplified even more with artificial intelligence. I don't think it should be called intelligent, actually, but it's artificial. Producing more and more insecurities, more and more sense that you're not worthy, you're not enough, you can never get more. In fact, we have our economy driven on meeting falsely created desires and images of the self that are not actually real, illusions of what you might be. It's so interesting. I remember Michael Douglas, who's going to address us later, was at the UN in a press conference, and they kept asking him questions about finance in Wall Street. And he had to say, I'm not Gordon Gekko. And at some point in your life, you realize that you are a human being. You're not the masks that you wear. In the Greek system, the persona was the mask, and the soul is what makes us human. And the characters who were only masks were called the hypocrites. And we have a society in which the mask of our humanity is amplified, and the core of our humanity, which is soul and light, which resonates with hope. Every infant comes into this world resonating with hope and responding to love. Every one of us came with that purity because we were so attached to the light of our souls. And that's where love, compassion, patience, tolerance, forgiveness, all of the qualities that make us human reside in that inner light. And the mask is something that we live through. So I think the reason that we're in a position we are is very simple. We have a culture in which we're taught to love things and use people. We are people who've decided to love people and use things. Our ideas of who we are things. Our nation is a thing, our religion is a thing, our job is a thing, something that will come and then go. But that luminosity that makes us human, that power that gives us hope, that voice of conscience, that place where you came into this world and responded to love like that. You know what? Infants who don't get love, they don't grow. We need those qualities because we are not just form, we are also soul. And our society has forgotten soul. So we are following people who are literally without soul, without conscience. And thus, it is time for those of us who are responding to something inside to stand up. And I got a poem, too. I got a poem from here. Okay, here it is. The hand without the good heart is dangerous. The good heart without the hand withers into mere sentiment. But when the good heart and the hand come together, then the bitterness of salt is turned into a sweetness of sugar. The bitterness of a life lived in loneliness, selfishness, fear, superficiality, emptiness, is turned into a life of generosity, justice, service, love, and the sweetness of being human.
The sweetness of being human and luminosity. Thank you, Jonathan. Vidar, what about the current climate? How did we get here?
I must admit, this morning I watched a 1 hour long speech that was given on a central podium in this town, and I asked myself the question, how did we get here? I think one of our fundamental issues is that a too big portion of societies, in this country and other societies, have been left feeling they're not part of that hope. And if you feel that changes are happening very fast, Jonathan mentioned AI, things are accelerating all the time. If you feel that this is just too much, I'm not catching up with this, you start appreciating what you know, you start sticking to what you know, and you may start despising and even hating what you don't know. And that is fertile ground for polarizing politicians, populist politicians, nationalism. I mean, there are many explanations why we are where we are, but I think that dimension is quite central. And we need, therefore, as people that have hope and do hope, one of the do hope tasks that we have is to try to weave more people into that hope. And as changes are accelerating, that's going to be ever more difficult, but an ever bigger challenge, and more important, because hope is what drives human ambition, it's what drives innovation, it's what's driving human progress. And if too many people are left to think that sticking to the guns, literally, is the only path forward, we're in a really bad place. And we are, in too many contexts in this world, we are in a very bad place. So let's bring hope out of that book and out of this audience and onto the streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Should we move to the third question?
30 seconds. 30 seconds. Don't tell me your values, show me your budget. Your budget will tell you what you hope for. We should have a budget with a lot of money for teachers, with a lot of money for education, for a lot of money for hospitals, for a lot of money for health, not a lot of money for weapons. That's why we're off. We need to change our policies to come into accord with our human values. And our job is to not only bring the quality of hope, but also show that there are practical, successful ways. And Norway has a pension fund that's $1.5 trillion, the largest sovereign wealth fund, that is based on these values. That is, it demonstrates, and it's no small matter that we're led by Norwegians in this, who are actually walking the talk in these values. And their fund cannot put money in enterprises that violate human rights, produce weapons of indiscriminate effect, landmines, cluster munitions, and nuclear weapons, and despoil the environment. That is putting hope into action, and that's an example for all of us.
You know, there's this saying, I don't want to boast, but since you triggered me, If you want to live the American dream, move to Scandinavia.
Ooh. Okay, so on the talk shows, they talk about lightning rounds, but we're going to talk about enlightening rounds, given who we have here. So, parting thoughts and prescriptions for hope. How do we win it back individually and collectively? Oops.
They're telling you.
Okay. Sorry. How do we bring it back and regenerate hope and longer-term thinking for 7 generations? Could I ask each of you to give some parting thoughts, and then we'll close?
I think we just have to have more self-confidence. Oh yeah, we have to have more self-confidence. We are egocentric, and we can be selfish, but in a way, being self-confident doesn't mean that. Being self-confident means really trying to be realistic about what we are as individuals, what we're capable of, and how what we do has consequences and responsible for those consequences. And when we do that, and we do it collectively, which we are doing now, and we're being pushed into it, we've been very complacent. We've allowed the situation to get totally out of hand. In the cab coming down here, they were advertising on the little TV screen, the American Dementia Society. And so I said to the driver, who was from India, from his lineage from India, I said, American Dementia Society, that's the government. Why, that's the government. And we have allowed that to happen, all of us. Even we voted against it, we still allowed it to happen. We didn't take it seriously enough, and we didn't honor our own. Even the people on the liberal side, they a little bit sold out, didn't honor what you mentioned about equality and all the wonderful things. So I think we can all do that if we take a little more self-confidence and realize our own power and therefore responsibility as individuals, each of us. And it could be a small thing. It could be overhearing something in a coffee shop, some moron babbling some absolute nonsense and actually speaking up. Or it could be whatever it is. And in a way, we shouldn't, the bad guys, we shouldn't hate them. We should realize they're just they live in a personal hell, and they're trying to spread it because they don't know what else to do. They somehow feel a bit deep lack in themselves. And they talk about lack of self-confidence. They brutalize what's around them because they feel that they are nothing inside. So the key thing is, you are all great. And you are all magnificent, actually, creatures in this universe. And it wasn't just God who did it. It was a combination of so many things and so many other people. You're interconnected with everybody. But you are a key part to it, absolutely. And therefore, your problems, you should address them now, because they won't even go away even if you pass out. Even if you pass on, you'll take them with you. And you'll be back wherever it is. You'll be back, like the Terminator said in the movie. You'll be back. So just deal with it now and realize your power and your capability and realistically do it. And you can live the nice poem that he wrote about the harvest and the air and the whole thing. Wonderful. Carry that vision and step toward it yourself, and then we'll get there. No problem.
Okay. Thank you. Never argue with your conscience and win. Never argue with your conscience and win. I spent 12 years once a month going to a maximum security prison and doing sessions with about 50 guys, and that was very powerful with them. And what I learned was there weren't any bad guys, there were bad actions. And I learned that the distance between any of those people and myself was very small. And then I thought to myself, Jesus said, I was in prison, did you visit me? I was hungry, did you feed me? I was naked, did you clothe me? Keep that in front of you. And why he said go to prison, you realize that the difference between you and that bad person, that person who did something really bad, is not that different. And in fact, we've now discovered scientifically that over 99% of our genetic code of any of us is the same. What makes us different is very small. That's why the Buddha's first truth is, there is affliction. You will, at best, get old age, sickness, and death. That's the best you're going to get. You might get betrayal, disappointment, etc. along the way, but everybody gets this. And then it's noble, because then you have compassion. So if you have that sense of compassion, if you have that sense of an awakened conscience, then you will be guided by that which put those qualities in yourself. So I think the most important thing for people who want to make a difference is to put time aside to be still and be quiet and listen to the voice of conscience, and then bring it into action, and listen to the teachings of the wise since time immemorial, who've expressed very clearly the same core teaching. Treat others as you want to be treated, and bring love into action.
There you go. Wonderful.
Over to the Norwegians.
I think what we learned from your tale of meeting these prisoners is that it is when you meet people that you get hope. The only thing that really inspires hope is the meeting with people that do remarkable things. And one of the challenges of our time is that at the big level of society, that meeting doesn't take place between those disenfranchised and the rest of us. But also at the level of families and schoolyards these days, because of the screenification of our lives, there are insufficient amounts of those personal meetings. And I think that is something we really need to be mindful of. That connection, the human connection, is so powerful at the micro level, at the individual level, and at the societal level. So let's pursue that, guided by ancient wisdom, but current practice.
Elizabeth, I'd just like to say, if I could, I know we're at time, but I'd just like to thank Osvald. I really like Osvald. And I'm really happy about the hope. And I used to love going to the performance theater. Osvald did things in all capitals all over the world. And he would bring back with really some weirdos, usually leadership weirdos, but weirdos. And then they would all get together and things would happen. And he never lost hope. He never gave up on any of them. And that's why everybody likes Osvald. And actually, he has sheep. He has deserted his sheep on his farm up in the fjord, where he lives up there. He's a real Viking. But he's a cheerful Viking. He's a Viking of good cheer. And I want to thank Osvald.
So we must thank our distinguished panelists, and I'd like to close with a note of thanks to Jane Goodall. And what she said, the many things she said, including reminding us that we each have an indomitable spirit. And to remind us also that of her reasons for hope, but that it is, there's a window that we have to act. If I may close with a paraphrase of T.S. Eliot's Bartender in the Wasteland, hurry up, please, it's time. The least distinguished person here to introduce the most distinguished, and our extraordinary privilege to have not only the actor Michael Douglas, but to have the messenger of peace, Michael Douglas, and all the work that he's doing to bring art and meaning together to remind us of who we are. Thank you. I give you Michael Douglas.
Thank you so much. This is a magical experience. Never been here before, and I want to thank you so much for the invitation. And Osvald, it's very gracious of you. Thank you very much. Leonard Levy, thank you. The poem was fabulous. Thank you, Jonathan Granoff. I appreciate it very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I know that I am in esteemed company. This group includes pioneers who have traveled the summit of Mount Everest, the surface of the moon, and now finally Quantumania. Not everybody sees Marvel movies around here, but in all seriousness, we gather as the United Nations begins high-level week, an opportunity to take stock of where we are and, more importantly, where we're going as a global community. And over the years, I, like so many in this room, have heard an immeasurable number of speeches and attended countless side events. And yet the words that most changed my life weren't spoken in the General Assembly or Howell Hall such as this one. Rather, they were delivered 60 years ago in a university classroom by a philosopher, architect, and inventor named Buckminster Fuller. I was just a student then, and Fuller urged us to see Earth as a shared vessel. Spaceship Earth, he called it, a fragile craft careening through the cosmos with no passengers, only crew. Every one of us equally responsible for its care. And Fuller believed that our greatest challenges, war, inequality, environmental exploitation, were not inevitable. We simply needed the creativity to imagine and the courage to explore better alternatives. Most of all, we needed one another, fellow thinkers and doers, to help us find our way. In the years to come, I was fortunate to travel the world as a young actor, discovering, as I imagine many of you already know, that what unites humanity is so much greater than what divides us. And then, in 1979, I helped make a film called The China Syndrome about a near meltdown of a nuclear power plant and the corporate cover-up that followed in a terrifying twist of fate. The movie was released 12 days before the real-life crisis at 3 Mile Island. And it was a frightening moment and a galvanizing one. I started reading more about half-life of plutonium and the sheer scale of ballistic missiles, listening more to the experts who have long sounded the alarm about nuclear brinkmanship. And it brought me to the United Nations when, in 1998, I became a messenger of peace by Secretary General Kofi Annan. Us non-proliferation folks have always been a quixotic bunch. But today, as the world of China's syndrome appears less fiction than prophecy, our mission sometimes feels like a desperate holdout against an inevitable catastrophe. And it's not just the nuclear weapons. Nations are spending more and more on machines of war and less on the people they're purporting to protect. Look anywhere, and you see the consequences of our choices. Generations trapped in cycles of violence, families ravaged by hunger, the earth itself buckling under the weight of exploitation. I don't need to tell you this. You've seen it with your own eyes. Landscapes transformed, species vanished, cultures struggling to survive. And all the while, your very calling is under threat. As authoritarianism and political violence continue to rise, attack on the free press and scientific reason becomes normalized. And those who dare speak truth to power are punished. I have admittedly scaled few mountains in my time, but resisting these forces feels as daunting as a quest of any summit. And yet, I arrive at this gathering centered on hope, filled with it, because more than just hearing witness to these challenges, the people before me are uniquely suited to meet them, to expand our perspectives, illuminate new frontiers, and remind the world that we can meet this moment if we meet it together. In another book of his called I Seem to Be a Verb, Fuller wrote, I live on earth at present, and I don't know who I am. I know that I am not a category. I am not a thing, a noun. I seem to be a verb, an evolutionary process, an integral function of the universe. And so, my friends, this is my call to you. Let us be verbs. And in particular, this is what I ask that we do. First, let us tell. Let us tell our story. It's a lesson I learned from my father. He was best known for his roles on the silver screen. And by the way, if you ever thought you had a lot to live up to, you try having Spartacus as your father. But at the height of the Cold War, my father traveled behind the Iron Curtain with the U.S. Information Agency to screen his films and speak about the principles behind them. Resistance to tyranny, freedom of expression, the values that enabled a poor Jewish kid, a ragman's son from an immigration family, to rise above his circumstances and achieve the American dream. Well, my father fought on the battlefield and testified before Congress. But some of the most important work happened in those screenings, because telling stories can change the world. Action and communications, he taught me, are inextricably linked. And the same goes for you. As explorers, it is your mission to not only go out and see, but come back and share. Share and bringing the world and those with the power to change it face to face with realities it can no longer imagine. So our second verb is to expand. Now, there's a certain romance in the notion of the lone explorer, striking out solo, braving the wilderness to become the first. But everyone in this room knows the truth. No one explores alone. Every expedition depends on collaboration, from mission control to the team in the field, to the support systems back home, all sharing in the risk, all reaping the reward. The challenges before us are far too vast to confront in isolation. So let us open the door wider, bring in more voices, new perspective, and above all, the next generation of change makers who will carry our work forward. I think of my son, Dylan. He's here with us today. He serves in local government in New York. He's young. He's about 50 years younger than his colleagues. but his youth endows him with that powerful combination of optimism and pragmatism, the ability to see what others may not. It's a spirit found in young people across the globe, activists, field researchers, community organizers who refuse to sit down and wait their turn. When we expand our institutions, expand our thinking, and empower those leaders, especially the young leaders, we do more than ensure continuity, we ensure possibilities. And this brings me to my last verb, and that is quite simply to hope. I've been involved in nuclear nonproliferation now for more than half of my life, and I'll admit that I no longer believe the dreams I started out with, that someday I would see a world free of nuclear weapons. But I still believe this cause. It's worth fighting for. Hope isn't naive. It's necessary. Almost a year ago, I visited Kyiv. And by then, Ukraine had been fighting for the survival for over 2.5 years. Thousands had died, millions more had been displaced. The prospect of a lasting peace had, to me, all but disappeared. And yet, speaking with people on the ground about nuclear weapons, I was struck by something unexpected. Radical optimism. The hope that the devastation of this war might at last prompt the world to finally confront the dangers of armament. When your faith is in short supply, look to those dreamers who face hard truths with clear eyes and believe they can make a difference anyway. In the Middle East, in the Sahel, and yes, right here in this room, this community is a wellspring of hope, filled with people who confront storms and setbacks at the steepest of odds, and they journey on anyway. Friends, we live in a tiny, miraculous, terrifyingly fragile marble of a planet. It's all we have. And we are all that we have. But I believe that's enough. I believe, just as when I first heard Fuller all those years ago, that we have the potential to be integral function of the universe. And I believe we can plant the seeds of a future where might is not measured in missiles, but in the strength of institutions that deliver justice, freedom, and opportunity. So let us be verbs. Let us tell our story, extend our movement, and hope that together we can create the future. There isn't a moment to lose. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Michael, thank you. Thank you so very much, Michael. Thank you. I hope there is a way to find back these, that this is on video somewhere, and I'm going to sit down quietly when I'm back in Norway in a few days and listen to your speech one more time. It was fantastic. So maybe I have a feeling that the Explorers Club has already been for a long time a global home for hope for a lot of people. And that's surely what this place can play a tremendous role in the future. We need to explore the frontiers that will give us hope, bring us prosperity, and new progress. Clearly, when we listen to some of the speeches here now, we see that we as a human family, we are vulnerable. But we also learn from Bob's comments and from many of the comments here that when we have confidence, we help each other to rise to the occasion. We are also mighty. And there is might in us. And I want to share with you just a small experience my wife and I had some years ago. We lived in London, and we were invited to the Christmas party at The Economist. And we thought that was a great honor, of course, and I put on my nicest suit, and we had the driver take us in. And we came into this mysterious facility, and lots of people dress rather unimpressively. And you had these triangle British sandwiches, but lots of booze. So the party got going. There was no problem with that. And after some time, I met this most wonderful person. My wife spoke with our host, and we started talking. And I asked, what is your field of interest, and what are you up to? And he said, well, I've just been 9 years in a Buddhist monastery. Yeah, okay, that sounds great. Well, it's not so great, but they've just invited me to leave. In other words, he was fired somehow. I don't know how this works, Bob, but you need to help me to explain this. I thought, okay, well, that was pretty depressive. But I said, okay, but you must have learned something. Oh, yeah, I learned, among others, the purpose of life. And I thought, that's pretty incredible. So I said, well, let's get another gin and tonic, and then you tell me this. I'm really interested. And he said, well, I would love another gin and tonic, but I can tell you this is very simple. It is the purpose of life, as he explained it, it is to give and receive. And if you can really give something into somebody that is useful, and you are in a situation where you receive what you need, life is pretty remarkable. And I think this is really something that brings home some of the messaging here today, is that if we all can wake up in the morning and think about, okay, how can we, I'm an old footballer, how can I pass the ball to somebody so they can do something with that pass? How can we say something? How can we bring some hope into the world in smaller or in bigger ways? In the book, you will find people who represent philosophies and words and spirit, but you will also find stories about people who are investing billions in green steel. They are investing billions in connecting people. So they are very hard investment programs that brings hope and opportunity for lots of people. So I just think that combination is pretty good. I just would like to take this a couple of minutes to thank very, very much you, Leonard, for making all of this possible. It is fantastic. You're a very, very generous man. And then if all the co-authors who are here, there are quite a number of you, can you stand up, please, so we can see who you are? Very good. Thank you very much for taking the time and for contributing to the book. And of course, also a warm thank you to Lyndsay. She has this incredible attention to specifics and details which can drive any person nuts, but you have not been quite successful, Lyndsay. Thank you for doing such an excellent job. So, ladies and gentlemen, in my part of the world, the winter is coming, the days are getting shorter, and we will spend a few months in the snow and in the cold. And there are a few lessons that come from living under these circumstances. And there's one specific lesson which is very, very important for us when listening to the state of the world. And that's tempo. And when skating on thin ice, we have learned that speed is of essence. If you are too slow, you are not going to make it across. So what my final urges and what my final message is to urge each one of us to do a little bit quicker, and then suddenly we will start to work ourselves out of situations which are not ideal. As an entrepreneur, I've experienced this time and again. I remember I was sitting here on Black Monday many, many years ago now, and together with the head of mergers and acquisitions for Primerica, was a company in those days, and his secretary came with like 10, 15 Post-it notes. His name was Jim Carrey. I don't know if he's still around. I just happen to remember this. And he had to rush out because of the stock market crashed. I've never seen him again, never met him. I should try to figure out if he's still here. But there has been so many crises, COVID now recently, financial crisis, etc. And we have this phenomenal capacity to work ourselves out of problems when we decide to join hands, loving hands, and work together. And that's what we will do going forward. And I want to thank you very much for coming, and I hope our path will cross in many different ways going forward. Thank you very, very much.